Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show on this Thursday evening. I'm Peter Martin. Thank you very much for joining us. Alan Ruff and Gordon Smith are with me here in the studio, and here's what we're going to be discussing. Yes, a big night of European football for Celtic ahead. We'll be looking at that just shortly. But the main focus of our attention is the PFA Scotland statement released on behalf of their members, which is basically calling for a ban on artificial surfaces in the top flight. They also go on to say that Kilmarnock, Hamilton and Livingston, their players were not consulted in this questionnaire, just basically because obviously it puts them in a difficult position with the clubs who employ them because they have artificial surfaces. But over and above that, the Championship, League One and League Two, also the players there are calling for high standards on any artificial surface that they're forced to play on. So first and foremost, Gordon Smith, give us your view on this release from the PFA Scotland members.
I can understand it. There's a few players do complain about it. They say they're sore after playing on it. The standards have improved greatly in terms of artificial surfaces. I feel there should be a standard that's put out there in terms of criteria from undersoil, the underside of it, so that it gets soft in terms of cushion for landing of players on it and running on it and all that sort of thing. That should be standard and that should be the criteria. I'm a great believer in artificial surfaces. I see at kids level the big difference that's made from having playing in rubbish grass, which most of the time they need to play on, because if you've got public parks and one game after another's going on it, the park gets ruined and the kids can't play properly. I'm all in favour of artificial surfaces, but at the highest level I can agree that if you get proper grass and good grass surfaces, that should come in, and that's why a lot of the times the artificial surfaces have come in, because a lot of the actual pitches, the grass pitches, were very poor. Yeah,
but now because in the 21st century the development of grass pitches, including the hybrid, which Celtic have adopted, and of course Heart of Midlothian, should we be in a situation where everybody should say, look, it's grass pitches at the top level? There's no excuse for not maintaining your park.
Yeah.
Motherwell actually had a real problem with their ground, and they responded to that. They hired a groundsman. They did the necessary work over on the far side of the pitch, which I think had, if my memory serves me correct, some sort of clay, 2 or 3 feet down, that was causing all sorts of problems.
Yep.
But they made the necessary changes, responded to it. Now Fir Park is a superb surface.
Absolutely, I'm in favour of good grass. I mean, there's no question, even right through every level of the game, I'd be in favour of grass if it was good quality, but it's not always. You see some of the pitches, terrible state they're in.
No, I accept that, but do you agree with the Premiership? It must be grass.
Yes, I agree that if the grass, but there should also be a requirement of a standard of it too, and I do agree that if it comes in at that level, at the highest level, I would be in favour of it.
Ruffy, I don't think it'll be any problem for you, because quite simply Firhill looked in good nick the last time I was there a few weeks ago.
No, I think Partick Thistle already looked into the future of the hybrid pitches, and they know that's going to get better and better, and financially it's going to be much easier to put down as well. So yeah, we're happy to stay with that. You know, the surface has got a lot better. I think if you asked the boys who played in the artificial pitches for a comment on it, I think the majority of them would say grass. But I mean, Gordon's already put the case through for the youth, and I can't disagree with that at all. You know, young kids need to play in good quality football. They need to get touches on the ball. My biggest worry of the law is when specialists say playing in these surfaces in later years, it's going to affect you. You know, health-wise, hips, knees, thing. I don't know if the kids come into that category so young, and so if that would catch up on them later on in years. I don't know the stats of that.
When we were younger, we played in Red Ash.
Red Ash and Stones.
So, you know, and you still played. So, do you get any effect from that? Maybe, I don't know. But everyone gets affected differently. Some players get injured, believe it or not, on grass.
Yeah,
I've seen it happen.
But, well, listen, nobody's debating that point, Gordon. I mean, there are pros and cons, across bad grass surfaces. I mean, you'll have to look back at some of the pitches that some of the geniuses played on in the 60s and 70s and looked as if they were still, playing on the best surface. But the crux of this matter, and I've heard some people bumping their gums about, you've got to take into consideration some clubs do this because it brings them in revenue. Well, I'm sorry, but at the top level, I think clubs have to seriously look at it. I mean, I think in Holland, some of the top clubs have all contributed to a pot to make sure that if you are coming into the top division, you can take money from this pot to get grass.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it makes total sense that that at certain levels of the game, not the very top level. I'd say if you go in the Premier Division, then fair enough if you have to have a grass pitch. But other levels, it is an important point because it's a training ground as well for a lot of these clubs. They actually can train on it, they play on it, and it's they get use of it as well. Even when the club's not using it, they can rent it out. You take Airdrie, for example. I mean, I go to all the Youth Cup finals. They're all played at Airdrie Stadium, and they play one game after another. They play three, over 2 days. They play 4 games each day. Now, if that was grass and it had been raining and all that, could you do that? Probably not. Yeah. So there are advantages of it and there are disadvantages. But at the highest level, if good grass is there to be used, I'm all in favour of that.
Okay, from good grass, there will certainly be good grass tonight at Celtic Park. It's the Europa League. Our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi looks ahead to the big game, Celtic against Valencia.
Welcome to Celtic Park, where there will be European football after Christmas for the second year in a row. This evening, the Scottish champions welcome Valencia in the first leg of their Europa League last 32 tie. Celtic come into the game in the best possible form. They've won 7 out of 7 since returning from the winter break, scoring 21 goals and not conceding once. And they've been buoyed by the January signings of Oliver Burke, Timo Weah and Jeremy Toljan.
Celtic are without several key players for tonight's game, with Tom Rogic and Filip Benkovic still out for several weeks, and the game will come too soon for Olivier Cham and Kieran Tierney. Despite this, manager Brendan Rodgers thinks his side are in as good shape as they possibly can be going into the game.
We're at the best level that we could be at, in terms of the start that we've made and to the second part, but also the level of our game. I think the intensity of it is at a really high level. And irrespective of our opponents, that's what we always try to achieve in the game.
Valencia made it here via the Champions League. They finished third in a group behind Juventus and Manchester United, which is nothing to be ashamed of. They're 8th in La Liga, but they've only lost 4 league games all season, and they're also in the Copa del Rey semi-finals. In terms of team news, Santi Mina, Rodrigo and ex-Arsenal defender Gabriel have all not travelled to Glasgow, but they will have Goncalo Guedes, the £35 million man, and captain Danny Parejo. Keep an eye out for him. He makes them tick and he'll be playing this evening. Now, this stadium behind me has been something of a fortress all season. Celtic have won 21 of 23 games played here. If they want to better last year's last 32 exit, they must get a positive result here tonight.
Well, Brendan Rodgers is confident, Ruffy, that they can get a positive result in the first leg. Do you share that confidence?
Not overconfident. I know they're on a good run and they aren't losing goals, but I think you've got to look at the quality that they're playing and now the quality they're going to come up against. They're coming up against a team who's drew with Barcelona. And that is certainly better quality than what Celtic's been beaten. So they'll have to up their game. They'll have to get a wee bit of luck on the night, as you always get. And they're good enough to get something out of the game. Will they get it? I think it's a big ask. The interesting thing about Valencia, as you said there, they've drawn twice with Barcelona this season as well, but the drawing is part of their game. They draw a lot of games. I mean, even see the start of the season, they had a terrible start. First 10 league games they had 8 draws, 1 win and 1 defeat, and that's why they were sitting 15th, 16th in the league. They've now climbed of late. They've climbed back up to 8th position. Finished last year in 4th, but they're now 8th. So it's mainly, but they draw an awful lot of their games. Even the last games I've had, the last 9 games I've had 4 wins and 4 draws. They draw a lot, and that's why they're probably quite a defensive-based team. And Celtic will get quite a tough game tonight because obviously Valencia know how to play that game. Yeah, I mean, if anything, Celtic have had 7 wins, Ruffy, no goals scored against them, but I think that's false confidence. It's got them into the zone, but now you've got to try and press against technically superior players. Yeah, you have, and okay, Ollie Burke's come in, but he's not proven at this level, you know, and it isn't. I think if you were to push Brendan Rodgers into a corner, it's not his best 11. If he had his best 11 available, I think he'd be more confident.
Yeah, okay. We will get your thoughts on that. Tomorrow as well, we'll reflect on the game between Celtic and Valencia. Can the Scottish champions record a good first leg win or lead to go to Spain next week? Only time will tell on that. We'll be looking at the rest of the Europa League fixtures as well as turning our attention towards the new Hibs manager. Paul Heckingbottom may not be a well-known name, but certainly over the next few weeks we'll be analysing how he's going to change Hibs and take them on. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Don't forget, if you've got any comments on artificial surfaces or indeed Celtic against Valencia, Europa League in general, Champions League, anything about your favourite team, you can do it on social media to us, and we'll read out some of your comments as well. Twitter, Facebook, and of course on YouTube. Alan Ruff and Gordon Smith are with me here. We're talking about Celtic just before the break. Here's a look at the Europa League fixtures elsewhere tonight in the competition. I think from possibly the next round onwards, it starts to get a little bit more interesting. They were the early kickoffs from today, and as far as the next section, which is the later kickoffs, Chelsea in Sweden against Malmo and there's Celtic against Valencia. Is there a team that sticks out there? Are you looking, Gordon, towards either a Spanish or maybe even a Chelsea or an Arsenal that should be in the latter stages of this competition?
You think from the big nations, but I'm looking at Salzburg as well, who are a bit of a team at times. You know, I think they could be real difficult opponents for MD who comes up against them. I mean, they've got a bit of money to spend, but they've got a lot of talent in their squad, so I think they would be a hard team to be drawn against.
Yeah, Ruffy, is there a particular team that you would
I
back?
think the two English teams will be there or thereabouts. Seville, who have got a fantastic record in this tournament, will be there as well. But I don't know why, but we're talking about it there. There seems to be a lot more bigger names in it this stage than what there have been in other years. You always go, I'm not happy with it. Don't fancy this tournament. But there are certain teams that flashed up there that would get your interest.
Yeah, listen, I think at the end of the day, the biggest problem for a lot of clubs, Gordon, is there are some really big clubs, and you only have to look at the last couple of weeks in the financial release of where the best supported teams are, the biggest amount of money that's been taken in. There are some really big clubs with great European history that are being left behind and well behind because of the spending power. England is frightening everyone. Yeah. And I think somewhere along the line in the next couple of years, I anticipate UEFA announcing a change to the structure. It may well be in my mind, and I've had all these stories that you see are just those little scare stories put in, but I think the bigger clubs will get to a point where they will start to look to try and break away again. I just fear for clubs, you know, Ajax, case in point, you know, will they ever be in a final again?
Yeah.
Feyenoord, you know, Celtic, it's 2003 the last time they were in a European final.
Oh, days gone by, I mean, you're absolutely right, and it was a lot easier to get to a final. I mean, I remember even at Rangers, like, you know, we had two difficult games. We had obviously Juventus and then PSV Eindhoven, but we got through in both legs, and then that was us in the quarter final. Nowadays, to get to quarter final with all the qualifying games you've got, but I do know for a fact that UEFA changed a lot of it, Peter, in order to try and keep the big clubs from changing things and from pulling out. They've made a lot of these changes. That's why you've got like 4 Spanish teams that are in the Champions League now, and 4 English teams and all that, because they don't want the teams to break away.
But Ruffy says I don't like the Europa League, but I think the whole thing is geared towards just trying to satisfy the scraps off the European table for clubs. I don't think financially it's worthwhile. No. In some cases, I think they need to look at the restructuring of the Europa League as well. And, you know, some people, you know, have been heavily critical of my comments on it. I don't care. The early parts of this they're not very interesting.
I agree with you. There's a tendency of many people actually to only look at the Europa League if you know a team that's playing in it. Or you want to see a team. Otherwise, I mean, when you put the draw up there to show it there. That was the first time I think I've seen the draw.
Yeah.
Because I probably don't even look at when that competition's drawn, because you found out who Celtic were playing, and that was the only interest. But you're absolutely right. People don't have a lot of interest in Europa League. There's no question of it. The Champions League is the tournament.
Yeah, and you only have to look at, I mean, talking about the awareness and the brand and the way they promote the brand, the Champions League seems to be the be-all and end-all, and Europa League for me is just secondary. It's almost that little tidbit for the clubs to say, oh, we got to a European final. Over and above that, Ruffy, you look at the Champions League, the money, when you look at Celtic's financial results, the whole, had they not sold Moussa Dembele, was there for all to see. Wembley last night, that's a game you want to watch. It's Tottenham against Borussia Dortmund. But even then, I mean, if Celtic and Rangers were open to those riches, you would be watching that all the time. We actually considered Celtic and Rangers over the last 10, 20 years as Champions League sides.
Yeah.
Not that they were going to get to the latter stages, but you thought they were at least getting to the group stage.
Yeah.
No, I think if you took everything outside the actual game itself, Celtic and Rangers fall into that financial category. If there was a big league, the supporters, the revenue they've got coming in, if they were playing against these sides, they would certainly have to look at them. But I agree with you. I think they've muted. There's going to be a third European tournament that gives the big clubs, right, okay, we're going away now. There's 16 of us going to do our own group stages. We're going to do that, and you can have the Europa will be their Champions League if they want, and the bigger clubs will have their massive tournament.
But there were 3 tournaments when we were playing as well, though. There was the Cup Winners' Cup, and then this was called the Fairs Cup at one time before it became a UEFA Cup. But the thing, I like the fact that you had a competition for the cup winners of a different country. I felt that was good, because then you win a cup and now you qualify for a European competition. Yeah. Nowadays you've got a lot of teams, even in the Champions League, teams that are sitting 4th in the league. There's Valencia sitting at 8th at the moment. They've moved up from 14th, 15th as they were before Christmas. But, they were 4th in the league. And some teams are in the Champions League every year and they never ever win the league.
Well, Arsenal's the case in point. They viewed it as a success over a 16-year period. OK, a couple of things I want to talk about before we finish. First of all, Paul Heckingbottom, Ruffy. Now, people might not know a lot about him. Here's a wee bit of background to him so far. Barnsley and Leeds United are the stats that we're looking at. Wasn't great for him at Leeds United. Had a difficult time there. Probably a lot of people are saying, consider what he achieved at Barnsley, and obviously trying to promote young players. He reckons he can tap into the potential at Hibs. He's got a 3.5-year deal. I'm not sure what the severance package is, Ruffy, but nevertheless, he's there. He's in. He's second choice. I think he's got a difficult job trying to replicate the heights of Neil Lennon.
Yeah, well, first of all, not that he's not got a big name in football, or he's done a lot in football. You should never hold that against anybody, but fans being fickle as they are, if things don't go particularly well for him, that's the kind of thing they'll talk about. What's he done? What's he done again? We don't know him. He hasn't got a CV that we're all raving about, but he might be the guy that comes in that has the right structure for Hibs. Obviously, Leanne will have interviewed him. He's based his success on maybe youth, or giving youth a chance, the style of football. And the bottom line is he has to win the fans over, because Neil Lennon was so well liked with the fans. They bought into everything he'd done, even the wins, even the losses as well. They were on the same wavelength when he came in after a loss and said, look, blah, 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 and they bought into that.
Yeah. So, Gordon, I think he needs to get them into the top 6. Yeah. And of course, the other great thing about living in that city, I know exactly what it's like, they won't tolerate Hearts as the dominant force again. No, and they have moved their managers on quite quickly as well, Hibs, haven't they? What I would say is that every managerial appointment is a risk. You're never sure, you'll know this yourself, Ruffy, having been involved recently, you're never sure how MD's going to fit in, because I'll tell you why, it's like a chemical reaction between a group of players and a manager. Some managers can go in and get the best out of players, no problem at all. Some don't get anywhere with them, the players just don't react to it. They must have done a bit of homework on him. Some people have recommended him, obviously, because, as you say, he's not got a big reputation in the game. He's not well known. So therefore, it is a risky appointment. But the guy might be perfect for the job, and we'll just have to wait and see. He's got a big job to try and fill Neil Lennon's boots, but nevertheless, he might be the ideal man for it. Last point, Gordon. I know you've been asked a few questions in one of the papers today. What's your thoughts then? You've said that you think the review system has gone too far.
Yep.
Where should we take it back to in your mind, and only with a review system?
My opinion is the review system should be looking at players who are guilty of cheating, basically, and looking at scenarios like that. They're looking at...
Talking of Jordan Jones, that type of thing?
Yes. Simulation should be dealt with retrospectively. They should also be looking at ones where incidents have happened off the ball, where maybe the actual referee's not seen it. It's an off-the-ball incident. That's it. But seeing the actual game, I don't believe we should be looking at that anymore. I think we should be saying the referee is given a yellow or a red card, leave it there. But you can, if the red card is wrongly given, you can actually appeal against that.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think we should come back, because there's just too many incidents being looked at, and there's too much debate on it, and people making cases for saying, we're not getting treated as well as they're getting treated. That's the thing. Leave it to the referee on the park, and he's the one that gets the criticism at the end of the day, rather than the panel who have to decide.
And VAR, yes or no?
VAR, yes.
Yes, for VAR, yep.
OK, there you have it. It's all about opinions. Of course, conspiracy theories abound in Scotland. I'm sure that will rage on and on anyway. Give us your view on social media. You can contact us, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter as well. Good luck to Celtic tonight. Thank you very much for watching the programme. Thanks to Ruffy and to Gordon Smith as well. We'll see you tomorrow on the programme at 6.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.